So guys, welcome to our channel once again. In today's video on our biology exam revision series, you will learn about the concept of living things. So ensure to stay till the end of this video, as this is an important topic in your biology. So let's start by stating the characteristics of living things. Now, in a simple way, the characteristics of living things can be summarized as MRS neg. That's, you can simply call it Macy's neg. So that stands for M stands for movement, R stands for respiration, S stands for sensitivity, then N stands for nutrition, E stands for excretion, R stands for reproduction, and G stands for growth. So it's important you know all these, so you can just simply make use of this mnemonic for that, Mrs. Neg. So let's start by discussing each and every one of these one after the other. Now, before we go into discussing this, it's important you know that also non-living things can exist one or more of these characteristics, but living things are the only ones that can exhibit all these characteristics at the same time. All right, so let's go ahead and start with movement. So we know that movement in living things can be one of the two forms, either as movement of part of the body as seen in plants, or movement of the whole body from one position to the other as seen in most animals. So let's also go ahead and talk about respiration. So all living things actually respire. So the respiration actually helps the living things to generate energy required for their growth. In this process, chemical energy for work is released by oxidation of substances in the living cell. So the next one we'll talk about is sensitivity, also known as irritability. So sensitivity has to do with ability of the living things to respond to changes in their external environment. They respond to changes such as light, they respond to water, they respond to sound, temperature, and even chemical or physical substances. So this is known as sensitivity or irritability. So the next one we'll talk about is nutrition. So we need to realize that organisms actually need nutrition in order to grow and also repair worn out parts. So nutrition is essential for all organisms in order for them to grow and repair worn out parts. Hence, all living things exhibit this characteristic of nutrition. So the next one is excretion. Now, this is the process by which the organisms can get rid of waste substances from the body. Perhaps these substances can be poisonous to the body. So, if they are retained in the body or if they accumulate in the body, hence they are excreted or removed from the body. So, all living things have a way of removing substances from their body, that is excretion. The next one is reproduction. All living things have the ability to produce young ones of their kind, hence that is reproduction. So all living things can bring forth or produce young ones of their kind. This process is reproduction. So the next one is growth. So we'll talk about growth here as growth and development. Growth is actually an irreversible increase of an organism in size. Also, we have development. So development is the change in shape and form of an organism as it ages. So we have growth and then we have development. So these basic characteristics are found in all organisms. Hence, there are still other characteristics that you should know about, which can be found in all organisms as well, such as competition. Competition is another characteristic found in all living organisms, because all living things actually compete for food, for space, for water, and even for light, as the case may be. So there is also adaptation. Organisms actually have the ability to adapt to changes in their environment. So with this, let's also consider non-living things. So non-living things are the things that do not have life in them as opposed to living things. So they do not have these characteristics of living things that we've mentioned. However, some of them can possess maybe one or more of these characteristics, but cannot exhibit all these characteristics of living things. So remember, living things are the only ones that can exhibit all the characteristics we just mentioned. All right, next we will talk about the similarities and differences between living things and non-living things. So already you can make a nice guess on what might be the differences and what might also be the similarities between the living things and non-living things. But hence, let's go ahead and still talk about these. Living things and non-living things occupy space. Both living things and non-living things occupy space. Both living things and non-living things have size. Both living things and non-living things have shape. So all these are similarities between living things and non-living things. So we also have differences between living things and non-living things. Growth is one of the major differences between living things and non-living things. Living things actually grow by assimilation of food substances into the body. Most non-living things do not grow, and in any case, if there is growth, as in the case of crystals, the growth is by external addition of substances to the body. So that's a major difference. So also, another difference, living things have life in them, whereas non-living things do not have life in them. So next, living things feed, they also respire, excrete, and even reproduce, whereas non-living things do not do any of these. Also, living things age and die. Non-living things do not die. So another difference is that living things cannot be made of just one element, but some non-living things like copper, iron, zinc, and the rest of them can be made of just one element. So there are lots and lots of differences between living things and non-living things. So you can go ahead and explore that, try to find out more, and then add to yours. So we also talk about living things in a broad category. So in a broad category, living things can be divided into plants and animals. So there are still interrelationship between plants and animals. So let's look at the relationship between plants and animals. First, green plants during photosynthesis manufacture their food with the aid of sunlight, chlorophyll, carbon dioxide, and water. Then animals, which do not manufacture their food, feed on these plants. Then secondly, during the respiratory process, animals give out carbon dioxide as a waste product. Now, this carbon dioxide given out by animals can be used by the plants during the process of photosynthesis to also manufacture their own food. So we can write a chemical equation with these. So glucose, which is 6H12O6 plus 6 molecules of oxygen, will give us 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water plus energy. Hence, this is the process of respiration that yields carbon dioxide that should be used by plants. Now, these plants end up using this carbon dioxide, that is CO2, and in the presence of sunlight, they will manufacture glucose and oxygen again, just like a reverse of this equation. So, when organisms die, microorganisms such as the bacteria and the fungi cause their decay. The decayed organisms form manure, which plants absorb as soil nutrients. So we need to take note of these three processes I've mentioned. So it's very important that you understand them and have them handy. So let's look at the differences between plants and animals. So plants and animals can exhibit certain differences in their characteristics as well as in their cell structure. For instance, we have locomotion. So plants actually generally do not move from one place to another to search for food. So there is no organ of locomotion. On the other hand, animals can move from one place to another in search for food. Hence, there is locomotion. So the type of movement in plants is a non-locomotor movement, whereas in animals, there is locomotion. Next, let's talk about nutrition. So plants actually possess the green coloring pigment known as chlorophyll, which they can use to manufacture their own food. Hence, they are photosynthetic. Exceptions of these include the fungi and the bacteria, which do not possess this chlorophyll. But in animals, animals do not possess chlorophyll. Therefore, they depend on already made food, which they can actually derive from the plants. The next thing is sense organs. Plants do not have any special sense organ, whereas animals have sense organs that are present to enable them detect food and escape their enemies. Next, let's talk about organs of respiration. In plants, there are no real organs of respiration to carry out respiration, hence the absence of respiratory movements. Whereas in animals, they have organs of respiration and hence can carry out respiratory movements. For instance, mammals possess lungs. An exception of these is an organism like the amoeba, which do not possess respiratory organs. Let's also consider energy in plants and animals. Plants are energy transforming organisms, hence they are anabolic, that is, they build up energy. Animals are energy spending organisms, hence they are catabolic, that is, they break down energy. Let's also consider their excretory organs. In plants, there are no special excretory organs. In animals, they have some special excretory organs present. For instance, there is kidney in vertebrates to eliminate waste products. So let's consider growth. Growth is indefinite in plants, whereas in animals, growth is limited. So if we should consider their cell structure, we will realize that there are organelles that make distinctions between plants and animal cells too. For instance, we have the cell wall. The cell wall is present in plants and is made of dead rigid cellulose, which has a definite shape. But in plants, cell wall, if present, has a living, flexible membrane, hence can change its shape. An example is that of the amoeba. Next, we have the vacuole. So, in plants, there is a large centrally placed vacuole, whereas in animal, there is usually no vacuole, and if present, is also usually small. So let's talk about the cytoplasm. Now, due to the presence of large vacuole in plants, there is a thin cytoplasm. Whereas in animals, we have a large cytoplasm. Also, let's look at how food is stored in their cells. In plants, food is generally stored as starch in the cell, whereas in that of animals, it is stored as glycogen. Another organelle we'll have to discuss is centriole. Centriole is absent in plants. However, it is present in animals and it initiates division, cell division in animals. So guys, that will be all for this class. And here is a free WAEC exam revision question for you to test your knowledge on what we've learned in this lesson. Feel free to pause this video and try it out. Also, if you are not yet a subscriber to this channel, ensure to subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. See you on our next class. Thank you.